everybody, welcome back. We have on the line with us a very special guest. Her name is Presley Tennant, and she is a country music artist who has a brand new single called Gamble. Now, we all love music. That's why we love having our musicians on here. And if you don't like music, there's probably something a little wrong with you. But anyways, we're here to have fun. We're going to learn about her life. We're also going to learn about her new single and everything else that she's done. Welcome to the show, Presley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing great. I'm glad you're able to join us. So tell me your story. You know, we all have a story. We all wanted to get somewhere and we all have dreams and we all have to pursue those dreams in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. But what I love to hear is the stories about how you got to where you are and what made you love what you're doing right now in order to pursue that. So tell me your story.
So I first started singing when I was about 7 years old, but it wasn't like anything crazy. I was like Taco Tuesdays, karaoke nights. My parents would have tacos, and I'd be singing Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar, that type of thing. And from there, I then started vocal lessons just so I didn't ruin the karaoke voice. And I was introduced to different like talent shows amongst my hometown and surrounding it, and I one of them worked out and I was introduced to a girl group called the Five LPs, or the Five Little Princesses, and that is really where I would say that I got my start into the music industry, and it kind of gave me the format and the basis of what the music industry is. And we were surrounded by so many incredible and influential people. Like the right before I joined the group, they were signing to Britney Spears, and then I got to meet the Jacksons, like the Jackson Five, and then Kelly Rowland. So many people that were around us at all times that really already knew the industry because they've been in it. Um, and they were willing to help us out and give us like the fundamentals that we need to keep the group moving on. And so when I was about 10, that's when I joined that. But when I was 12 or 13, I want to say that's when the group kind of ended and fizzled out. And then I went solo from there on and fell in love with performing and being in the industry and going to rehearsals and songwriting and recording and writing and all these different things. And it led me to my journey on season 16 of The Voice. And I was on Team Kelly, and that was one of the most incredible experiences. I learned so much during that time, not only as an artist, but as myself, like as a person outside of music. And I am made some of the greatest friends, as well as worked with so many incredible musicians. And it all ended up to here, and I'm very, very grateful for every single step that I had to go through.
You know, I had interviewed Jackie Evancho when she was about 9 years old. And it was really fun because she goes, I remember sitting up in my bedroom and I was singing the track to Cats, the musical that they had just gone and seen. And her mom heard her downstairs and thought she was playing a CD of it. So she went upstairs and realized it was Jackie. And then's kind of where she realized how she wanted to sing. Was there a moment like that for you when you were younger?
I would say honestly, it was those karaoke nights at Taco
Really?
Tuesday. It was just like a little fun thing that we did, like at like our local Mexican restaurant. And then my mom was like, like she's actually not that bad. Like maybe we should put her in singing lessons so she doesn't ruin the karaoke voice. And then that was just kind of that moment where I was like, oh, like this is fun. Like people do this. Like I didn't think people did this for a living. Like obviously I knew that there was musicians like that you hear on the radio and whatnot, but I didn't realize that it was that big of an extent, I guess, if to say it that way. But then once I joined the girl group, I was just fascinated with it all. I mean, I thought I was going to be playing soccer for the rest of my life, and so I was doing both. And then I was like, you know what? I think music is where my heart is. So I quit playing soccer and completely went full-fledged music.
And a lot safer for your body too.
Oh yeah.
Unless you fall on stage, and unfortunately there's not much you can do about that, but
Hey,
for the most
honestly,
part it's safer.
it's not the stage that bothers me. It's coming off the stage when I'm feeling like I'm on top of the world. And then there was one time I was doing a show at my school in high school, and we like just finished up and it was really cool. And then we got off the stage, my friend and I were messing around. He like grabbed one of my legs, and so I jumped, and then I like rolled over it, and I tore like everything almost up to my calf. And I was like, it doesn't happen on stage. See, it happens afterwards.
Well, yeah, because then when you're partying and stuff and you're excited, so I see that.
So yeah.
Now tell me about your experience on The Voice. What made you decide to go for it?
I had a few friends when I was younger, before I was actually allowed to be on, like, to even audition for The Voice, because the the age range or the age limit I think was 15, and I was 13 at the time, but my friend, she was on it and she absolutely loved her experience there. And so it kind of gave me like the, okay, like if this is something that I want to do, I know I can and that I'm going to enjoy it. And so when I was around 16, they reached out to me and I was like, you know what? I feel ready for this. I feel like I can do this. I know who I am. I know I could be on that stage with the big dogs and like can hang with them type of thing. And so when I got to The Voice, it was just, I felt like audition after audition for like a couple months. And then it finally ended up working out where I was there for the blind auditions and I got a chair turn.
That's really cool. Now, I know probably watching the show, you had an idea of who you wanted to turn around and pick you, but obviously when you were there, you wanted anybody to do it. Did you get the one that actually you were hoping for?
I did. Kelly Clarkson has been one of my biggest idols since I first started music. I mean, she was my first concert ever. I used to sing her song Because of You at every single talent show or competition, little singing event near me. And so when she turned her chair, I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my God, like this is my idol. And then I got to work with her so many times. And then after The Voice ended, she invited me out to Vegas to perform at one of her shows. And it was like my 17th birthday. So she brought me like a cake on stage and sang me happy birthday. It was the coolest feeling ever. It was just, I don't know. It's like one of my idols has like become one of my friends.
You still talk to her today?
Not really. I know she's a busy woman, that she's doing so many different things, whether it's like The Voice or her talk show and then now American Song Contest. So I was like, I know she's busy.
That's cool. Now, obviously, this is somebody that has made it in the industry. She made it through a reality show, The American Idol. So she knew something about something to get to where she is. So what was one of the pieces of advice she may have given you that you've taken to heart and use it in your own career now?
I would say there was one time when we were doing my Nothing Breaks Like a Heart song, and I think that was my top 24 round. And you know, the song, if like you know it as is, it's a Miley Cyrus song, but it's kind of like a Dolly Parton synth pop, super like giddy, I feel like is the right word to put it. And it just wasn't who I was at that time. And so she sat me down and she's like, we need to fix this and make it so it's your own because no one's going to believe it if you don't believe in it yourself. And so that's always kind of stuck with me in saying that, like, even when it comes to songwriting or recording or even covers, like, I might as well make it my own because you don't want to be compared to the artist that it is. Obviously, it is nice, but at the same time, you want to be your own person. You want to be your most authentic self. So that's always kind of stuck with me to make everything my own.
You know, that's very true because even like when I watch like American Idol and they have like the Whitney Houston night, I mean, she's extremely hard to mimic, and a lot of them try to mimic her, and it usually is the round that kills everybody.
Yep.
So I can see where she's coming from with that. And it's great advice.
Oh yeah, it definitely is one that I have stuck with me through since I heard that, and then it's just been so near and close to my heart. That's something that I always remember.
So tell me a little bit about your writing process. What does it entitle? I mean, do you sit down? Do you have like a cup of coffee, tea, Coke, not cocaine, but you know, Coca-Cola, and or something like that? What do you do? How do you get in the mood, and what triggers your thought process?
So if I like am like timing out, like I'm like, okay, this is my designated time to write, I always have like either a Red Bull or a bunch of water and maybe some coffee. It's either one of those three. I have my water right here, but it was filled up. Oh, I had a coffee earlier, but it'll probably be a Red Bull later tonight. And then so that's always like the first basis. And then I always kind of go through my notes and figure out if I have something in the past that I might want to work on, just so it's a little bit easier for me so I can be like, okay, I can really sit down and have time to work on this. But also a lot of the time, it's kind of like if I hear something that somebody said, like even if it's like a cool lyric or maybe a play on words, I just write it down and I'll revisit it later that night, even if it's just a couple lyrics that kind of fit within the basis of what that idea could be. But I usually write everything off of personal experiences with little influences of maybe what somebody else has been through and kind of like how I would react in their shoes, if that makes sense. Just so it's kind of, it still is my truth, but maybe with different influences.
You know, when we, as artists, no matter what you do, it's important to be true to yourself, like you said earlier, and you got to make it your own. So you got to put yourself inside of your artwork, no matter what it is, whether it's writing, singing, photography, art, painting. Who is Presley Tennant, and how do you put that into your music?
No worries. Music to me is an extension of one's art form and who they are as a person. And it's just another way of putting, like for myself, it's just another way of putting myself out on the line, despite from like social media and whatnot and what people perceive. But it's who I am, and it has the highs, the lows, the ups and downs of everything. And I feel like a lot of people can appreciate that because of the fact that there are artists who it may not be who they are on stage, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's like a little like alter ego, like how Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. It just becomes it's still her, but it might be like a different portrayal of herself. But in my music, you can definitely figure out who I am through that.
Now, your first song, what was it that you wrote, and how proud of you are of it right now?
The first song that I ever wrote, I'll do it this way. The first song I ever wrote by myself is called The Woods. And I felt like it was just how I felt during that time. And it's kind of like the story of like Little Red Riding Hood and going through like the woods and trying to find her way. But there were so many different like obstacles just to try to get to like her end goal of where she was going. And so for me, my first song, that kind of portrayed everything that I felt during that time, because I felt like whether or not people were hearing me or they weren't taking me seriously because I was 14, 15. And then till now, it's like, I know that I've grown such a long way since that moment. But like during that time, that's exactly how I felt. And that was my truth. And that's what I was living. So I knew that I wanted to put that song out and put exactly those feelings and all those memories in that song.
Since that first song to the most recent one that you have, you've obviously seen some growth. What has been the biggest thing about your work that you've seen the growth in?
I would say maturity and even like writing style. One thing that has stayed consistent with me is that I love songs when you're able to hear it, you're able to see it. That is so important to me, because it's like that's why I really admire Ashley McBryde, because I feel like every single song that she writes, you're able to see what's going on in those moments. And so that's always been something that I wanted to keep throughout all my music, and it's being like, okay, like if you see it, you can hear it. Or if you hear it, you can see it, other way around. And so with that, but even like life experiences, and it's just me growing up, and I mean, I was 14, I'm 19 now. Though I am still very young, I know that my life experiences are definitely not the same. I wasn't writing about being in a relationship. I was writing about like not going to school, that type of thing. I was like, I don't want to go back to school. Like, don't make me go. There's back to school supplies already in the Office Max. I don't want to go, that type of thing. And so, but from now, it's like experiences that a lot more people can relate to, and not necessarily the typical 14-year-old would write about.
Yeah, I like that, because sometimes people, when they start off and they have success when they are younger, they stick to that. Mm-hmm. And they don't evolve and grow, and then they kind of outgrow their music, and then it looks ridiculous. I've seen a couple people do that. Yeah. And so I'm glad that you were able to recognize that and grow with your experiences.
It has definitely been a long journey, let's just put it that way, but also at the same time, it went by too fast. So it's like I look back at those and I'm like, oh my gosh, like those are like my reminiscing like moments where I'm like, oh, I missed that, like how like innocent and everything was, I feel like. But also at the same time, that's one thing about life. You got to grow up, and you got to do what you got to do, and you go through these different experiences, and that's so beautiful about it, because everyone goes through them, and maybe not the same way, but in a way that someone can relate to it. And I feel like the beautiful thing about songwriting is that you're able to portray it, and people can relate to it, and they can be like, oh, I went through the same thing. It may not be the same, but I understand it.
Speaking of going through experiences and taking chances, your song Gamble, I've taken many gambles. Some of them I've lost, some of them I've won. And I'm not just talking about throwing dice or anything like that. I'm talking about physically gambling at something that could seriously impact my life. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you tell what the song's about to you. and I'm going to see if it matches up with what I was kind of thinking it would be myself. So let's see how that worked out.
So I first wrote the song Gamble last year around this time, and I was in Nashville and I was about to go into a tracking session a few days later, and I already had a couple songs picked out that I wanted to do, but I wasn't super in love with one of the songs, and so I was like, I feel like I could write something better. I feel like I can do this a little bit better. And so I was, in the hotel room, I was scrolling through the TV channels, just wasting time. And then I came, like they have like the set TV channels, and there's like the jewelry channel, and then there's like the poker channel. Well, I came across the poker channel, all right? And then I had been talking to this guy that I really liked, and I didn't know how he felt, and I really liked him, and I was just so confused. We've been going out for a little bit, and I was like, this is kind of like a risk. Like, I'm giving it my all, and my heart's already in it, and I don't know if he feels the same way. And so that was kind of like the inspiration on it. I was like, I saw the poker channel, and then that moment happened, and then like the light bulb went off my head, and it was like, ding, 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 you got a song. And so I wrote Gamble and just kind of was saying, like, love is like a gamble. Like, you don't know where you're going to go. You're either going to win big and you're going to end up with the person, or you're going to lose it all and your heart's going to be like shattered on the floor in a million pieces. And you're like, why did you do this to me? And they're like, no, I didn't like you, that type of thing. So, the song Gamble was formed off of that. I felt like I wrote it within 40 minutes over like the span of 2 days. I wrote like the first half of the song in like 20 minutes, and then I sent it to my producer. He said to come into the studio the next day and we'll put it on piano. So we did, and I went back and finished it that night, and I sent it over to him, and I was like, what do you think? He was like, this is really cool. We're going to do this. And so that's kind of like how the story of Gamble ended up. And it did end up working out. I still am with the guy that I wrote the song about. So
good. I was just about to say, you can't leave me hanging like that.
Oh yeah. So we definitely have one big.
Good. I'm glad that worked out for you. And yeah, it was kind of like what I did too. I took chances, and I believe, and I believe that your song's kind of the same way. I believe that if you don't take a chance, you'll never know. And then what you have is regret. Because regret is probably the worst form of anything, is that you can't go back and fix it. It's too late. So I like taking gambles, and sometimes they pay off, and sometimes it hits you hard and you lose, and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. But I'd rather have that loss and be wrong than to not have tried at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was probably one of the easiest parts about writing this song for you, or even producing it? Let's just take it to the studio. Let's take it to the writing and the studio. What were the two easiest parts for you, and what were some of the hardest parts for you recording it and writing it, and why?
I would say that the easiest parts were for the fact that I was going through those feelings and that like emotion of it right then and there. And so I was able to put exactly what I was thinking instead of trying to like go back and remember. I was able to just put it all on a piece of paper right then and there. I would say the hardest part was, the hardest part to me was probably not knowing how the song would turn out. And I was like, and if all of a sudden I didn't like him or we weren't together anymore, and I was like, well, now I don't want to release it. And I feel like see, this is why. But with a gamble, it would have like been the same feeling, because it's like, okay, either one big or I lost it all. It's one or the other. And so that was probably the hardest part, not knowing if it was going to work out on like the personal level of it.
And I can see why that would be a tough one. I mean, yeah. It is a very personal song.
Yeah.
So is this part of a EP or a full-length album that you have out?
So this is not on this one, but I am working on writing. I'm actually in the middle of writing a bunch of new music that I'm planning and hoping that it works out, that it goes on to a new EP or an album, deciding if I want to do just an EP or a full length. But you can definitely expect a lot of new music in the meantime, as just singles until then.
Take a gamble and go for the LP.
Take a gamble and go for the LP.
I'm sorry, I had to. I'm sorry.
I love it.
So with your music, obviously we want people to go check it out. We want people to enjoy it. And obviously you might be on tours now because things are starting to open up more. So tell everybody where they can find your music, where they can see what you got going on and follow you as well.
You can follow me on all my social media, which is at Presley Tennant. So PresleyTennant, except for Facebook, which is Presley Tennant Official, and then like TikTok's Presley Tennant Music, because both of those Presley Tennant were taken, and I was like, what the heck, man? Like, who else wants my username? So no. Or you can go to my website, which is presleytennant.com, and there's everything is on there, from all my songs, all my videos and whatnot.
Now we're into the basically starting the second quarter of 2022. What do you want to see happen before the end of the year?
I really want to see a lot of, well, I don't really want to see, I want to release a lot of new music, and I'm actually just putting out a new music video on April 22nd, the 20th, for Gamble on You, which I'm very excited for people to see, because like this song's like my little baby from like start to finish. And so I had like directing, what is the right word? I was like directing the music video as it was happening too, which I thought was really cool. So this one is definitely like my little baby, but there's a lot of new music to be coming out, as well as a lot of show dates. I just opened up for Tim McGraw and Blake Shelton the past couple weeks. And then I'll also be doing a new show, not a new show. I'll be performing at a new show on April 22nd, which I'm excited about. And that's in Bullhead, Arizona. There we go. That was a tongue twister in its own.
Well, I'm so glad you're staying active. I'm glad that you're able to pursue the passions that you love, and I wish you all the best for them. But before we go, if you're listening to the radio, I want to be able to play the song for everybody. So if you're on the radio part of this, we're playing Gamble right now. We want you to take a gamble in life. We want you to take a gamble and enjoy the song. And of course, Presley, thank you for coming on and being a great guest. And after the song, we're going to say goodbye. We're going to be right back to close out the show. But thank you for coming on and spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And guys, Gamble's playing right now. Go enjoy it. Have some fun. We'll see you back after the song.
Like, OMG, you were on TV and junk.